Okay, today we're going to talk about solar power hot water, and I've brought along an industry expert or even a manufacturer of a great Australian product called Catch Power. So Scott, thanks for coming along and joining me.
Thanks for the invitation, Mark.
So we need to clear this up to start with. Solar power hot water, we're not talking about the tank of hot water on the roof, right? From the 80s?
We certainly are not. We're talking about real solar hot water this time.
Real solar hot water.
Solar PV into your tank.
Okay, solar PV, which is
photovoltaic.
So yeah, okay. So the electrical stuff which is coincidentally what I do. So yeah, and so that's why you're along. And so what I think is I'm very biased to this way of doing it. So basically sending solar from your solar panels that we install, sending that excess energy to your hot water system, because I think it's a really simple way of doing it. People in the industry think I'm biased, but I know a lot of plumbers, and they agree with me. They hate solar hot water systems unless they like a lot of warranty work and maintenance work, because those things fail all the time and they're unreliable. So I think generally plumbers and electricians agree that using solar PV, electrical solar, to heat hot water is a great solution. And I think you guys have come up with a great product over the years, which is why I got you in to have a chat about it. But we're going to start off, and I'm going to have a bit of a crack at you. So you guys came into the market how long ago?
We came into the market in 2016, April 2016.
2016, okay. And why did you, what made you start in the solar industry or dealing with hot water,
Yeah, so I was in the solar industry from 1999, and as a salesperson for selling solar panels, inverters, and racking to solar businesses, and I had a decent sized system on my roof at the time under the 60-cent feed-in tariff, New South Wales solar bonus scheme. And I was looking at my system and the way my energy the way my house consumes energy. And I realised, because the solar bonus scheme was going to finish in a couple of years, and I realised that almost 50% of my consumption was electric hot water. And there was no way of matching those two things, of matching the solar production and export with this massive load. And so a good friend of mine and a customer who has an engineering background, I mentioned this circumstance to him. He had an idea in his head. He's a real ideas man, and he sent me a line diagram, which I didn't understand.
Right.
But I understood the concept, and that was the start of the journey that we're now well down, and that was in January 2014, and 2 years later we had we produced and sold our first product. So originally it was Blue Catch, and then we introduced Green Catch, and then the second generation of Green Catch.
Sure. Okay. So this is Green Catch, which is that second product, but the blue one was just like that, except smarter, right? So I disagree with you. You said there wasn't a solution in the market before you came along, or you were looking around and thinking there wasn't a solution. There was. It was a really dumb solution. So there was timers. So especially in Queensland, I found out from you that we were kind of obsessed with putting a timer on your hot water system. But the problem with that, we did timers every now and then, right? There is a time to put a hot water timer in. And basically what we're doing is saying, oh, well, the sun's shining between 10 and 2 o'clock in the day. You're going to have lots of solar power. So how about we time your hot water system to come on only between 10 and 2 p.m. But the problem with that, we'll both agree. Can you explain?
Clouds.
Yeah.
They don't have a time.
Yeah. Okay.
They're happy to come out any time, but the timer keeps going. And if the solar isn't there to cover that load that the timer is turned on, how much are you paying for it? Full mains rates.
The full 25 cents or whatever it might be, higher, in some places. So the other problem is too, what if you decide to, I don't know, run the air conditioners during the day, hot water comes on because the dumb timer is just set to come on anyway. And in some cases, I think, or in many cases, if planned wrong, it can actually cost you a lot more for your hot water rather than save you anything at all. So you guys came up with this product here, and explain the simple concept of what this was doing. Yeah,
so it's what I describe it as a proportional delivery of energy to your hot water tank. So instead of waiting or instead of turning on a 3.6 kilowatt element all at once, we actually feather the load so we can sort of deliver hundreds of watts at a time, and it matches your solar export, your surplus solar perfectly, and follows the shape of your solar production. So it never goes, beyond your solar production, and starts from the smallest amounts, and stays under the curve the whole day.
Okay, so a typical hot water system will take maybe 2,400, but often 3,600 watts, right? They're standard sizes for a hot water system. So yeah, if we turn it on with a timer, you're drawing that much power, but your solar power may be producing power, but it's only sending back 100 watts or 1,000 watts back to the grid. So you're kind of saying this device is kind of like a big dimmer switch, a smart dimmer switch that is automatically dimming your hot water down to 100 watts or 1,000 watts.
That's right,
and matching.
And not only that, not only does it proportionally deliver the amount of surplus solar, it also responds really quickly. So if there are clouds that come over, or the kettle goes on, that means you've got less surplus solar. You've got less solar that would be exported to the grid, and you need something to respond to that. And GreenCatch does that.
Right. Okay. So this is where I'm going to have a crack at your product. So what I think you need in a hot water solution is you need it to be affordable, you need it to be reliable, and you need it to be accurate. So this was really accurate in that, and it still is really accurate in that it matches your load perfectly, and you don't waste any solar, and you don't draw you draw very little power from the grid. So really good in that sense. Affordable, that's debatable. We'll debate that later.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Accurate. Oh, sorry, reliable. Is it reliable? And so I remember the first time you gave this to me. Remember what I said to you?
You said you've invented another mousetrap, but for another animal, which is a gecko.
It's a gecko cemetry, right? Because there's this big gap in it, and I'd known because I'm a Sparky, and I'd been repairing heaps of exit lights where they hadn't sealed it up properly, and they were just frying and blowing up the exit light. And I could see this was basically the same as that. Maybe a problem more in Queensland than around in your area, I guess. I don't know, but
they more in Queensland, but we found them elsewhere as well.
Yeah. Okay. So if we have a gecko plague, and I think I messaged you or whatever, when I told you, I had a message about that on my phone. And then almost a year to the day later, we had installed a few, and I found my first gecko graveyard in one of your catches.
Yes.
So how did that go? Was that just a one-off sort of thing, or?
It wasn't a one-off. It was the thing that you spotted, and it hadn't happened at that stage. And I was in a little bit of denial, and out they went. And sure enough, it started happening, and it had happened already since your message. So when that year later, your experience a year later, it had happened, and so we had to make a change to the design.
Yeah, right. And so I guess if we can spin that to a good story, which I think it's fair to do, is so Fronius, I'm a Fronius fanboy. We only sell Fronius inverters. Fronius started off when we were installing them, back maybe 10 or more years ago. They had this IG series. So they had a similar problem, not geckos getting in, but they were getting corrosion on their printed circuit board, and they were falling like flies. They were falling all over the place. But where Fronius got its reputation in Australia is the way they responded with those warranty concerns. And they were just all over it. And then when they brought out their next product, everyone trusted them. And so now I guess we're going to talk about the next product.
Yes, that's right. So, because of the price point, really, of GreenCatch, it became our most popular product, and a very popular product. So we redesigned it and repackaged it and took some of the cost out, and then so the second generation of GreenCatch came about, and that was it was released in August 2018, and it's a fantastic part of our story since then. We've sold thousands of them.
Yeah, sure. And I can see no geckos can get into this one. Have you had any geckos try themselves
no
on
geckos,
this one? No? Okay.
No.
Yeah, okay. So I guess let's go back to what my point was, right? We need it to be accurate. So this is the same thing, probably not more accurate. It's perfectly accurate.
Yes.
It follows your excess power and just soaks up all that excess power into your hot water system. Needs to be reliable. Is it reliable? We haven't installed that many, to be fair. So
no, but in New South Wales, where we sell a lot more GreenCatches, we're pretty much a company of two products at the moment, and if that product wasn't reliable, then I wouldn't be here.
Right. Okay.
So here we are 7 years later, and we've had to make, design changes and improvements. We've learned a lot in that process, but we've addressed all of the issues that present themselves. We've worked really hard to keep the owners of the product happy, and as well as our direct customers, which is the solar retailer. And we've got very few customers that are solar companies that offer Green Catch as a standard part of their offer, and then change their mind, because of some incident. So we have very loyal customers, and it's not because they think Scott's awesome. It's because they think that Green Catch is a really good addition to the package of the suite of products that they offer in their systems.
And presumably they're not getting too many warranty issues, otherwise they wouldn't be, wouldn't be hanging around.
Absolutely,
So, yeah, okay.
We would not be here.
Fair enough, yeah. And within the industry, and we all chat in the industry, I've not heard problems. No one's slagging you off behind your back. So
Good.
So then I guess the next thing is affordable to me, and I guess this all depends. But when there was a fairly high feed-in tariffs, which is probably when I was looking into this, we're probably getting 16 cents for a feed-in tariff. So that difference between a feed-in tariff and what you pay for power was very low. So you had to have a really cheap product to make it worthwhile, right? And to me, I thought it didn't make sense. If that's not going to pay itself off in 3 or 5 years, then to me, I don't think it makes sense for a customer to get it, because once it's got a 5-year warranty, hasn't it, right? That's all up to the customer. That's the way I perceive, is it valuable or not? That's kind of changed a bit now, hasn't it?
Yes, that's right. So it's changed in both directions. So not only have the feed-in tariffs gone through the floor, so single-digit feed-in tariffs are pretty much standard, and on top of that, the cost of power has gone up, and it's going up still. So it's So on that basis, then something that is sophisticated, that can match your hot water load, your single largest load in your house, to your solar production is a good investment.
Yeah, right. It's very satisfying too. I've got Fronius's version of this. It's about, speaking of affordable, it's around about $2,000 installed, but they gave it to me. I was lucky. It's ridiculously satisfying watching it follow that curve. But what is this, about maybe $1,200 installed or something like that, depending on the install and stuff.
That's right.
And I reckon if you're, I don't know, it really depends on your tariffs and everything like that. And let's say you're a grandma at home and you only use 2 kilowatt hours of hot water a day, that's going to take forever. But I think if you're a reasonable size family using maybe 10 kilowatt hours of hot water a day, you don't have a high feed-in tariff, then that can pay itself off in maybe 3 or 5 years, something like that.
Yes.
You need to do those numbers yourself, but I think it can be an affordable solution now. So I kind of didn't pick up on that, and probably maybe should have picked up on it in the last couple of years. Well, but maybe not, because what was it? When did your next product come out?
The Catch Solar Relay was released in February 2021.
Right. 2021. Okay, yeah, sure. So February 21?
Maybe 22.
February 22,
February
I think.
22.
Feels a bit better.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we've been doing them for about a bit less than a year ourselves.
Yes.
We've done bucket loads of them. I'm loving them. I just want to go back to reliable about this. This is reliable, and you're saying it's reliable, but I'm thinking that's doing a damn hard job. That's has 3,600 watts of power through it, and it's dimming that up and down. So it doesn't matter who makes that. That's a lot of working parts in there, right? The reason I jumped on this idea as soon as you brought it out is it's really simple. So we'll start with this. So this is a Fronius smart meter, and we install these on all of our jobs. And every inverter, we only install Fronius, but every inverter has a similar sort of product. So it measures the power that goes out to the grid, and so it's telling you when you're feeding power back into the grid, and it measures what's coming in. And you tie that together with what your inverter is producing, and you've got all the data you need. So what you guys have done was ridiculously clever, is you said, well, we don't need that anymore. We don't need the Fronius smart meter. You basically almost replicated that. Is that right? In this little device in here. So we take one part out, so that increases reliability straight away, right? And you put this fella in, which is your version basically of a Fronius smart meter, or any smart meter on the market almost.
Yes.
A majority of decent products on the market. have allowed you to communicate with their inverter, and then up on the Fronius monitoring portal, we don't know which product we've got. It basically looks identical. Now, talking about reliable, because reliability is a big thing for me, because we deal with warranty issues, is that this is a whole current meter, which means your whole house, the power of your whole house is running through that thing. Which, I mean, these have been fairly reliable. We've had some issues with them. But what I love about Catch is we now have a CT. This is a big version of it. So we measure the power just by running it through this. So there's no load. There's no massive power running through that. So a lot kind of smarter. So first, this is our smart meter. And then it just tells a big dumb switch, basically, right, to turn on and off. So contactor we've got here. Really simple device that's been used for eons in the industry. This one here, if there's Sparkies listening to, we use Voltex, really good company, really good warranty on it, 25 amps, and it's a reasonable price. And so reliability for me, that's the first thing, is that you're taking this out and you're adding two things in. So simplicity is better for reliability, right? So,
yes.
Yeah.
So that's So the beauty of it is you've got the energy meter functionality in there, which is generally consumption data that you're mentioning there, Mark, going up to the inverter platform, as well as load control. And this could be hot water. By and large, it is hot water, but it could be anything. It could be a pool pump. Could be in the future it'll be EV chargers. Could be other sort of water pumping, irrigation. One of the things about the Monocle is that there's a wide range of monitoring platforms out there. They're a dime a dozen, but we are a little bit different in what we offer, and that is because of the role that it needs to play in the house. So there is remote control of the load through the Monocle. And like a light switch, you don't want to turn on a switch and then have it come on in 15 minutes time, which can reflect some monitoring platforms out there, and most of them are delayed to some degree. We wanted you to be able to turn that load on or off and have that response within a second or two at the most from anywhere in the world. So as a result of that, and we've managed to do that, but as a result of that, or one of the byproducts of that, is that the data that we are collecting and displaying on the app is live. So there is a power widget on the Monocle that shows you the flow of power, from your solar being consumed from the house and then out to the grid, and it is live. So if you turn a kettle on, you'll see those numbers change. If the cloud goes over your solar, you'll see those numbers change as the cloud goes over. So, and that's a really powerful thing because it gives you visibility of what's happening in your system.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool. Yeah, okay. And so I guess we should talk about my second big thing is accuracy, right? So how accurate is this compared to the Green Catch?
Well, so in terms of controlling a load, it does it in a very different way. So, so Green Catch is doing is sort of feathering the load and proportionally delivering surplus solar to that load, and it's particularly to hot water. With the relay, it's on or off.
Yep.
So if you've got a 3.6 kilowatt element, you have to have a decent sized system in order to fit that load.
Decent sized solar system.
Decent sized solar system. Thank you. To fit that load under the curve as often as possible.
Sure, yeah.
So whether that's, how you would define the accuracy of that, I mean, it's very accurate. The data that we're presenting is very accurate, but the load switching is on or off. So,
yeah, so there could be times where you turn it, well, it rains all day and you can't turn it on even though you've got 1,000 watts of power all day. That system won't turn on.
I mean, you can program it to do that, but that would not be a great use of your energy,
Okay.
So we have to have, because you can't afford to go without hot water for 3 days.
Yeah.
So what do? What's the backup plan? So you can program, there will be loads like this, and hot water is a classic where it has to be supplied with power one way or the other every day. And so there's the programming opportunity in the relay where you can say, I want this load to run for 3 hours every day, and you can designate when that 3 hours is going to be, whether it be in the evening, it might be taking advantage of a cheaper time of a cheaper tariff in the middle of the night, but you can program that. And so it works with the export control, which is looking at your solar production. And if you've had like in the case you described there, a lousy solar day, and you haven't been able to turn it on due to exports, then at say 11 o'clock at night, it will turn on for the designated run time. So it might be 3 hours. It'll do the 3 hours.
Yep. But downside is this would have drawn up all those little bits of 100 watts and 1,000 watts during the day and potentially heated up your hot water system on that day. This thing, the way we would set it is maybe by 5 o'clock if you haven't had any power, turn on at 2 o'clock and run for 3 hours before 5 o'clock on that rainy day if it hasn't already heated up by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Not perfectly accurate because on those rainy days you could have soaked up that morning power, but the big thing I guess is affordability, and I talked about reliability. This thing, I don't know, a couple hundred, $250 or something like that, maybe $300 installed or whatever it might be. I don't really know my pricing. This is, I don't know. So we have to buy that contactor and that. So I think maybe another $100 on top of a smart meter. So you're putting the whole system up by about $100 or something like that. So a lot cheaper than paying something like $1,200 to go here. It's not doing the same. I would say it's more reliable, it's more affordable, and less accurate, if you could agree with that, So
yes, that's right. In terms of that's right. And I mean, it is a really, when you look at the fact that you've got it's got the energy meter functionality in there, you've got load control functionality, and you've got a monitoring platform with remote load control. It's packed full of value.
So that monitoring platform with remote control, I wanted to talk about that. What happens if your hot water system fails? Your Sparky gave me a really good example of what happened over Christmas when someone called up and called him rather than their Sparky, called Catch Power and said, "Oh, your stupid product's failed. What are you going to do?" How did he help him out?
He was able to. This is a fantastic story because it wasn't a relay issue, and because we had full visibility of the site, we could see that it was working perfectly, and so it wasn't a shortcoming of the Catch Power product. It was the hot water system, and sure enough, he got a Sparky out there to have a look at it, and it was the hot water.
And that was really cool, and we could do this too for our customers, which I think is really helpful that we can service our customers like this. He just said, can you just walk out to your switchboard near the catch relay? And then he toggled it on his app on and off, and he said, "Can you hear that clicking?" And Dale could actually hear the clicking over the phone. And he goes, "Well, I know the relay is working because I'm controlling it." So, 90% chance that it's your hot water system. There's nothing failed in this product here. So pretty cool. Now, there's another thing that I love about it, and that app is that, let's say, and we've installed hot water timers in the past and relays that worked from the Fronius inverter and things like that. And the problem we had with that is Sparky would go, they'd set it up, but we learnt over time, or the customer learnt over time, that it wasn't perfectly set. The usage changes or whatever it might be. And we would have to go and drive back out there and change that, or try to explain to a customer how to reprogram their timer, which wasn't great. What's the solution here if we've screwed up our settings, or if we want to change our settings?
Yes, or if the customers had a bit of a play and not really understood the way it works, then you can. So this feature isn't quite there yet, but it's not far away. So you as the retailer will be able to log into that specific site, see what the settings are, and make the changes from your desk, without having to go out to site.
Yeah, and that level of support, that's what I think is really good. So at the moment, we can't do it, but you guys can do it,
We
right?
can do it.
So Dale's jumped into our systems, I think, and realised, that probably wasn't the best way to set the parameter. So he's talked with us and adjusted our parameters as we're sort of learning this product. And really great outcome for the customer. And I think it's pretty obvious that fairly soon in the future, we're going to be able to go and adjust that for the customer. Now, here's another thing. So I've got the Fronius Ohm Pilot, which is a similar version to this, but it's that $2,000 version, so not really affordable at all. And on Christmas Day, we had everyone over in the pool, and I think it was a little bit cold in the afternoon. So all the rallies jumped in the shower at the same time, not at the same time, but, all had showers and drained our hot water system. And I thought, bugger, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and have a cold shower. But no, I could just jump in and control that and turn that on. And you guys have done that in a much simpler way, I think, on the app and the toggle. So if you run out of hot water, no problem.
No problem at all. Just turn it on.
You can control it. Yeah. And
which you don't have the opportunity to do that if you've got controlled load. You've got to wait till the next day.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, if you've got tariff 33 or whatever, that off-peak hot water, we can't do that at all. So, great little device in so many ways. To me, I think it is sort of the holy grail so far of solar hot water, is that it's affordable, as in it costs bugger all effectively if you're going to get a consumption monitor anyway. It's reliable because you're not really adding bugger all components to the system. So to me, naturally, that's going to be reliable. And what I say, accurate. It's accurate enough. It's way, way better than a timer, and you can control it. So probably most importantly, the customer is not going to be left on Boxing Day morning with cold water or something like that.
That's right.
Yes. Yeah, cool.
And probably in addition to that there is the opportunity to kind of future-proof the system, because the fact that the relay is connected to the inverter, it's connected to a load, and in the future we'll have the functionality of being able to match other loads such as air conditioning, EV charging, and maybe even respond to a market signal, such as Amber Electric, who offer wholesale electricity prices.
Yeah, right.
Where it might be a better time to turn on a load or turn down your solar, or just have better control based on an external signal. And so everyone benefits from that.
Yeah, right. And there's my favourite thing of what's hopefully happening in the future is emergency backstop for all those Sparkies listening in Queensland who will love the fact that there's another option out there, and especially that it's catch power given that option. So hopefully that's coming in the future. So I guess these are all future things. To be honest with you, I wouldn't go to my customer and say, oh, guess what, this is going to be able to charge your EV, in a year. I'm sort of just selling hope there. And I don't know really whether it's going to come out. But I think from my point of view, and like Dale says, it's a Lego block and there's so much you can do with that product. So I think you guys have gone through a fair journey to get here, but you've got a massive future of what that can do in the future, and ties into what solar is doing and what the network is doing with solar really well, I think. So
yeah, that's what we feel is, there's going to be huge demands on us as an industry. The network is under a lot of constraints as terms of how does it deal with all this renewable energy, and so we feel as though the only way for this to work is for there to be orchestration of not only solar production but also loads. You can only lift the lid on how much solar can go into the grid if it's matched with if the loads are matched to it somewhere for that solar to go.
Sure. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, have we covered everything there, Scott?
I think so, Mark. Yes.
Beauty. Thanks for your time.